Hello, everybody. My name is Kevin Wood. I'm the Chief IoT Architect for the Cisco Industrial Sales Group. I wanted to kind of kick off a multi-part series of discussion around the industry journey. So that is Industry 4 and beyond. We're going to take a look at what it really is, what those steps are to progress there, and some of the key things that we need to look about and think about from security, connectivity, infrastructure to really allow us to take advantage of that. But first, this first installment here will be based around what industry journey levels are and just a brief history lesson here. So I'm going to pull up a slide here so we can talk through this just a little bit. So when we think about the industry journey, and I put this together to call it, demystifying the industrial revolution. But there's many phases, and you're hearing about today 4, 5, and hope possibly beyond. But let's take a little bit about where we've been. So there was even a industry 0.0, and that industry 0.0 began in the late 1700s, and it was really agriculture and textile. From there, we evolved into industry 1, and that's where we started bringing a lot of new type of power to the industry, i.e. steam, coal, railways, started really innovating in the notion of factories and brought mechanical engineering to bear, and that got us up to the early 1800s. The second evolution started bringing in the steel industry, introduced electric power to that modernization, introduced communication, transportation. The concept of assembly lines and mass production was introduced. Chemical manufacturing as well as the automotive industry got off the ground, and that gets us into the early 1900s. Now, the third revolution is where we started this digitization effort, and this was attaching computerization to machines, to equipment on the floor, the shop floor itself. So IT was introduced in a big way onto the shop floor for the first time. We had advancements in communications during this evolution, and that evolution went from the 50s to the early 2000s. So we had internet communications, email, text, the advent of cellular communication. All of that changed the way that we could communicate. We also brought in renewable energy types and scalable energy types like nuclear and other things, and we started really getting into material science and biotech. Now, the evolution, even though that's where we begin digitization, there is a major jump when we go to Industry 4. By that, I mean having an air-gapped infrastructure is a inhibitor to getting to Industry 4. So Industry 4 is about securely connecting all your assets, which is going to be extremely important as we get further into 4 and into 5, which we'll talk about in a second. But we really focus on Industry 4 as secure connectivity, really connecting the cyber and physical world with robotics at this point. Robotics being defined at this point as separation of human and robots here. We're talking about IoT and advanced analytics, so we're talking about tons of sensor data, the influx of that type of data that we're going to use to start training AI models. We talk about the HMI, the human machine interface, and how we look at augmented reality, virtual reality, robotics. We introduced advanced engineering, 3D printing become a real thing, and the development of nanoparticle type technology. And then the big thing right now that's leading us into the next evolution is that AI ML. So why did that critical important to make the jump from 3 to 4, and there are still organizations that are still in 3, to get to an AI ML strategy to get us into that next wave of evolution? We have to train models. To train models, we need data. To need data, or to get the data, we have to connect the devices. So there's a lot of fear in the industry that I don't have enough data to train models. I would argue you do. It's just not always connected. So what we have to do is think about not developing synthetic data to train to get synthetic answers, but how do we connect those dark pools of data that we have in our organization? And really, the network infrastructure and the embedded security inside of a network infrastructure is how we accomplish that. Now, that gets us up to today. There's a lot of conversations happening about Industry 5. And in my opinion, Industry 5, although it's defined as a new phase, is just an extension of 4. Because we're changing the way we do robotics, and it's not the guarded or the physical separation, but it's shoulder to shoulder robotics or cobotics with humans. may even call them humanoids, right? So security and connectivity, low latency connectivity is so extremely important in this world because we can't afford to lose connectivity. We can't afford these devices to be compromised. We have to have them in a secure way because they are shoulder to shoulder with humans. So we start running the risk of possible injury and other things that goes on. And then this is about a mass customization. So we're industry 4 kind of separated the human a bit from this evolution. Industry 5 is bringing us back. So it's the mass customization of how we can engage and work more with the technology. It is very much human centric. We focus on resiliency, uptime, and sustainability. And that's going to kind of get us into catapulting the advantages of AI and beyond. So that's all I'm going to share for today. But hopefully this helps. Happy to leave some comments. Happy to ask and answer any questions about this. We are going to start addressing in the next upcoming videos of how do I achieve this? What does that evolution look like that gets me to industry 4 and beyond, and the value of the infrastructure? So thanks for listening in. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.